First Contact's Price. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Lunar Command Station Alpha, her reflection ghosting against the reinforced plasteel as Earth hung like a jewel in the void. 20 years of service in the United Earth Defense Force hadn't prepared her for this moment. The message had arrived 3 hours ago, transmitted simultaneously to every major communication hub on and off Earth. Your evaluation period has concluded, the transmission had stated in perfect English. The Meridian Collective has determined humanity requires guidance. Prepare for integration. No introduction. No diplomatic overtures, just a declaration that humanity's independence was over. The collected ships appeared at the edge of the solar system, massive vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Initial scans suggested their smallest support craft was the size of Earth's largest battleship. Their arrival had been precisely calculated, emerging from fold space in a perfect sphere around the solar system, cutting off all potential escape routes. Admiral. Commander David Rodriguez called from behind her. The Security Council is assembled. They're waiting for your assessment. Chen turned from the window, her expression carved from stone. Tell me something, David. When you were a kid, did you ever kick an anthill just to watch them scatter? Rodriguez frowned. Mom, that's what this is to them. They think we're ants. Primitive. Predictable. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They expect us to run around in panic, or maybe fall to our knees in awe of their superior technology. The commander studied the tactical display showing the collective's fleet positions. Their ships are impressive. Impressive doesn't win wars, David. Neither does arrogance. Chen activated her neural link, bringing up classified files that only 5 people on Earth had access to. What they don't know is that we've been preparing for this moment for decades. The files projected onto the room's holoscreen. Project Prometheus, Operation Darkstar, the Lazarus Protocol. Black projects that had consumed trillions in secret funding, developing technologies that had never seen the light of day. They think they're our first contact, Chen continued. They're not. We've known about them for 30 years, ever since we detected their stealth observation platforms in the Kuiper Belt. Every advancement we've shown publicly has been carefully curated. Every weakness we've displayed has been theatrical. Rodriguez's eyes widened as he processed the implications. The fusion reactor failures. Stage. We cracked efficient fusion 15 years ago. The public failures were cover for moving the real research underground. Literally. Chen's fingers danced through the air, bringing up more classified files. The Mars colony disaster. Cover for building our first fleet of stealth ships. The Jupiter Mining Corporation's bankruptcy. Front for constructing automated defense platforms throughout the outer system. Outside, the Earth continued its eternal dance, oblivious to the gathering storm. The collected ships had begun their approach, their formation maintaining that perfect sphere, shrinking slowly but steadily toward the heart of the solar system. They're broadcasting again, Rodriguez reported, his neural link pulsing with incoming data. More demands. They're telling us to deactivate our primitive defensive systems and prepare for their arrival. They're promising to guide us to civilization. Chen's laugh was sharp enough to cut. 30 years we've watched them, studied them, learned their weaknesses. They think they're gods coming down the mountain to enlighten the savages. She straightened her uniform. It's time to show them exactly what these savages can do. She turned to the tactical display, where the first wave of collective ships was approaching Mars orbit. Initiate Operation Thunderbolt. And David, send them a message. What message, Admiral? Tell them. Chen's eyes hardened as she watched the collected ships advance. Tell them humanity respectfully declines their offer of guidance, and that they have exactly 1 hour to leave our solar system. The pieces were in place. Humanity had prepared this board for 3 decades, while their opponents didn't even know they were playing. As Chen watched the collected ships continue their advance, she felt no fear, only a cold certainty. They thought they were gods descending from on high to civilize the primitives. They were about to learn that humanity had teeth, and they had just walked straight into our jaws. The silent response. The Meridian Collective's response was predictably dismissive. Their massive ships continued their advance, now passing the asteroid belt. Their message was brief. Primitive species do not make demands. Deep beneath the Martian surface, Dr. Elena Santos watched the greatest deception in human history unfold. The civilian research facility that the Collective's scans would detect was, in fact, the command center for Operation Darkstar. Below the visible labs and residential quarters, a vast complex house technology that would have seemed like magic to the public. "They're scanning the facility again," reported Lieutenant James Chen, Admiral Chen's son, still falling for the surface readings. Elena nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the quantum display showing the Collective's fleet movements. "They see exactly what we want them to see. A handful of scientists doing basic research, some primitive fusion experiments, and a lot of fear." The fear part wasn't entirely an act. Even knowing what humanity had in store for the invaders, the sight of those massive ships approaching was enough to make her heart race. The smallest of their vessels could probably reduce Mars' surface to slag. "All facilities reporting ready," James announced. "The Lazarus Protocol is armed and waiting for the signal." Elena allowed herself a small smile. The Lazarus Protocol, humanity's ultimate deterrent. The Collective thought they were dealing with a species that had barely mastered fusion power. They had no idea that humanity had cracked quantum entanglement communication decades ago, or that every major celestial body in the solar system now housed automated defense platforms that could strike simultaneously without any warning signal to detect. Multiple launches detected from the Collective fleet. One of the operators called out, "Looks like they're deploying their ground forces. Estimated touchdown in 30 minutes. Elena opened a secure channel to Admiral Chen on Luna. "They took the bait. They're sending in their troops exactly where we predicted." "Confirmed." Chen's voice came through with perfect clarity. Another technology the Collective didn't know humans possessed. "All pieces are in position. Initiate Phase 2. Elena turned to her team. "You heard the Admiral. Let's show them our primitive response." Throughout the solar system, hidden facilities hummed to life. In the clouds of Venus, cloaked platforms began charging weapons that the Collective had deemed impossible for humanity to develop. Beneath Europa's ice, quantum computers more advanced than anything the aliens had encountered began calculating firing solutions. The Collective's ground forces descended toward Mars in what they clearly expected to be a simple occupation. Their ships moved with the casual confidence of an adult reaching down to pick up a child's toy. "They're within the engagement zone," James reported. "All systems are go." Helena took a deep breath. This moment would rewrite history, assuming anyone survived to record it. Execute Operation Darkstar. Across Mars, holographic projectors that had been maintaining the illusion of a primitive colony flickered and died. The Collective's troops found themselves not descending toward scattered research outposts, but into the midst of the most sophisticated defensive network ever created. Quantum-locked energy shields snapped into existence around critical installations, gravity manipulation fields, technology the Collective thought humanity was centuries from mastering. Activated, turning the very force of Mars' gravity into a weapon. Multiple impacts detected, James called out, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "The gravity nets are working. Their drop ships are being torn apart." Elena watched the display as the Collective's ground invasion force discovered that their carefully planned occupation had just become a desperate fight for survival. "Signal Admiral Chen. Tell her Phase 2 is complete. We're ready for Phase 3. In orbit, the Collective's massive ships began to react to the unexpected resistance. Energy readings spiked as weapon systems charge, preparing to simply obliterate the suddenly troublesome human facilities. But humanity had planned for this too. As the alien ships brought their weapons to bear, sensors throughout their fleet began detecting quantum anomalies, microscopic tears in spacetime appearing and disappearing faster than their systems could track. "They're detecting the quantum minefield," Elena reported, watching the collective ship's frantic course corrections. "Exactly as predicted. Their ships are too big to maneuver effectively at this range." The quantum mines were perhaps humanity's greatest achievement. Weapons that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, impossible to detect until they were triggered, and devastating in their effect. The collective was about to learn that size wasn't everything in modern warfare. "They're sending out a system-wide transmission," James announced. They're demanding we surrender our stolen technology." Elena's laugh was cold. "They still don't get it, do they? They think we stole this technology from someone else. They cannot accept that we developed it ourselves." She straightened her uniform. "Send them our response." James nodded, transmitting the message they had prepared. "The Meridian Collective has one final chance to withdraw. What follows will not be an occupation. It will not be a war. It will be a lesson." Above Mars, the quantum minefield waited silently as the Collective's ships blundered closer. Humanity had spent 30 years preparing this welcome. It was time to spring the trap. Breaking the chains. High Commander Vextol of the Meridian Collective stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his 4 eyes narrowing as he watched another dropship disintegrate in Mars' atmosphere. Something was wrong. Very wrong. "Impossible," he muttered, mandibles clicking in agitation. Their technology level was verified. Multiple times. "Sir," his second-in-command approached, data streams flowing across her carapace. "We're detecting anomalies, energy signatures that shouldn't exist. The humans are using quantum-based weapons." "Quantum weapons?" Vextol's rage manifested as a deep purple flush across his crystalline exoskeleton. "They were burning fossil fuels less than a century ago." On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the Collective's fleet through quantum-linked displays that showed real-time events without any light-speed delay. "They're starting to understand," she said to her assembled staff. "Initiate Operation Prometheus." Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden fleet emerged from quantum shadows, ships that had been there all along, invisible not through any cloaking device, but by existing slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. The vessels were smaller than the Collective's massive warships, but they were the product of 30 years of dedicated engineering for this exact moment. By the Founders, Vextol breathed as hundreds of human ships simply appeared around his fleet. How did they hide these? The answer came in the form of concentrated quantum beams that sliced through the Collective's supposedly impenetrable shields. The human vessels moved with impossible precision, their quantum drives allowing them to shift in and out of normal space, making them virtually impossible to target. "Their ships," Vextol's second-in-command reported, her voice shaking. "They're not just armed with quantum weapons. They're quantum manifolds themselves. The entire vessels exist in a state of quantum flux." In the Martian Command Center, Elena watched the battle unfold. The Collective's massive ships were finding that their size was now a disadvantage. Unable to match the quantum-shifted human vessels' maneuverability, they were being systematically dismantled by weapons they couldn't defend against. "Multiple Collective capital ships have been disabled," James reported. "Their quantum cores are destabilizing. They're asking for terms." Elena's expression remained neutral. Admiral Chen was clear. "No terms until their entire fleet withdraws beyond Pluto's orbit." The battle continued across the solar system. The Collected ships, despite their impressive size and conventional firepower, found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't properly target. Human vessels would phase shift into normal space just long enough to fire their weapons, then shift back before return fire could reach them. "Send in the Nexus units," Elena commanded. Throughout the battlefield, small autonomous craft emerged from quantum space. Each Nexus unit was an AI-driven weapon platform, capable of predicting enemy movements through quantum computation and responding faster than any organic pilot could react. Vextal watched in horror as his fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy he had dismissed as primitive. How? He demanded of no one in particular. How did we miss this? The answer came in a transmission from Admiral Chen herself. You saw what you expected to see, High Commander. Humanity learned long ago that the best defense isn't always a bigger ship or a stronger weapon. Sometimes, it's letting your enemy underestimate you until it's too late. The quantum mines began to detonate, creating localized tears in space-time that pulled apart any ships caught in their radius. The Collective's mighty fleet, which had arrived expecting to find easy prey, found itself trapped in a web of quantum devastation. Full withdrawal, Vextal finally ordered, his pride shattering like his fleet's finest vessels. Get us out of this system. But humanity wasn't finished teaching its lesson. As the Collective's ships attempted to retreat, they found their quantum drives mysteriously malfunctioning. The humans had seeded the entire solar system with quantum disruption fields, turning the very fabric of space-time against the invaders. They're trapped, Elena reported to Admiral Chen. The Collective's fleet can't execute quantum jumps within our disruption field. They'll have to withdraw on conventional drives. Good, Chen replied. Let them take the long way home. It will give them time to think about the mistakes they've made today. The Battle of Sol system had lasted less than 6 hours. The mighty Meridian Collective, which had arrived expecting to find a primitive species ripe for conquest, was now in full retreat, their fleet in shambles, their confidence shattered. But as Elena watched the enemy ships limp away from Mars, she knew this wasn't over. The Collective would be back, and next time they wouldn't underestimate humanity. That was exactly what Admiral Chen had been counting on, because humanity still had more surprises waiting. Technologies and weapons that made quantum drives look primitive in comparison. The real war was just beginning. The counterstrike. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Chen stood in a secret chamber 2 kilometers beneath Europa's ice. Before her, a holographic display showed the positions of collective forces gathering at the edge of human space. They had spent months building up their fleet, bringing in ships from across their empire. They've committed nearly 40% of their total military strength to this campaign, Commander Rodriguez reported. Our quantum sensors have detected over 3,000 capital ships gathering in the Proxima Centauri system. Chen nodded, studying the tactical display. And that's exactly what we wanted them to do. Dr. Santos, are you ready to show us what Operation Lazarus can really do? Helena stepped forward, her face illuminated by the blue glow of the quantum processors that lined the chamber. The Collective thinks they learned their lesson about underestimating us. They still don't understand that everything they've seen, even our quantum technology, was just the surface. She gestured, and a holographic display shifted to show a detailed schematic of humanity's latest weapon. We let them see our quantum tech because it made them think they understood our capabilities. They're preparing to counter quantum-shifted ships and weapons. But Lazarus isn't based on quantum mechanics at all. The schematic expanded, revealing a technology that even most of humanity's leadership hadn't known existed. We call it the Void Matrix, Elena explained. It doesn't manipulate space-time like quantum tech. It rewrites it completely. In high orbit around Jupiter, humanity's true fleet was gathering. These ships bore little resemblance to the vessels that had fought the Collective months ago. Where those had been sleek and predatory, these new ships seemed to barely exist at all, their forms shifting and flowing like liquid shadow. The Void Matrix allows us to operate outside the normal laws of physics, Elena continued. The Collective's quantum sensors won't detect these ships because they technically don't exist until they choose to manifest. Admiral Chen turned to her assembled command staff. The Collective expects us to wait here, to defend. They think they understand our capabilities now. They're prepared for quantum weapons, for phase-shifted ships, for everything they saw in the last battle. Her smile was sharp. They're not prepared for this. The command center erupted into activity as final preparations were made. The Void Matrix ships, officially designated as Shadow-class vessels, took up their positions around Jupiter. Each one carried enough computational power to calculate the movements of every particle in a star system. Signal from the collective, Rodriguez announced. They're offering terms. They say if we surrender now, they'll allow Earth to maintain limited autonomy under their supervision. Chen's laugh was cold. Send them our response. The Shadow Fleet activated their void matrices. Reality shuddered as 300 ships simply ceased to exist in normal space. The collective's quantum sensors would detect nothing, not even the void where something should be. In the Proxima Centauri system, High Commander Vextal stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the Retribution Eternal. The loss of face from the first battle had nearly ended his career. Only the promise of overwhelming force had convinced the collective council to give him another chance. All ships report ready, his second-in-command announced. The quantum countermeasures are in place. Their tricks won't work twice. Vextal nodded, his crystalline exoskeleton now reinforced with quantum-resistant materials. Begin the advance. This time, we take no chances. Full bombardment of their outer system defenses before we. The sensor officer's sudden scream cut him off. Sir, multiple. I don't. They're everywhere. The Shadow Fleet manifested throughout the collective's formation, not through any form of faster-than-light travel, but by simply choosing to exist where they wanted to be. The Void Matrix technology ignored the traditional laws of physics, allowing humanity's ships to rewrite reality at will. Impossible, Vextal breathed as he watched his carefully arranged fleet thrown into chaos. The human ships weren't firing conventional weapons. They were altering the fundamental structure of space around his vessels, causing them to phase in and out of reality uncontrollably. Back in the Europa Command Center, Elena watched through displays that showed the true nature of the battle, not just ships and weapons, but the very fabric of reality being reshaped by human technology. The void matrices are performing beyond expectations, she reported. The collective's fleet is being systematically removed from normal spacetime. They can't fight what they can't comprehend. Admiral Chen nodded, watching as humanity's greatest technological achievement unmade the most powerful fleet the collective had ever assembled. Send the final message, she ordered. Throughout the collective's fleet, every communication system simultaneously received the transmission. You thought you came to civilize us, to guide us, to show us the proper way to exist in this universe. But you never stopped to consider that maybe, just maybe, we had moved beyond your understanding of what's possible. This is your final warning. The next time you enter our space, we won't simply defeat you. We will rewrite the laws of physics to erase you from existence. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, the mighty collective fleet hadn't been destroyed. It had been fundamentally altered, its ships transformed into quantum echoes that would take years to reintegrate into normal spacetime. Humanity had done more than win a battle. They had demonstrated that they weren't just more advanced than the collective had believed. They were operating on a level that the collective hadn't known was possible. Victory's echo. The great chamber of the Meridian Collective's High Council was silent. The holographic displays showed the aftermath of their greatest military defeat in 10,000 years. The once mighty invasion fleet now existed as quantum echoes, its ships trapped between states of reality. High Counselor Zexera, her crystalline form dimmed with shock, finally spoke. How did we not see this coming? Admiral Chen stood before them, having accepted their request for a parley. She was the first human to ever enter this chamber, and she had come not as a supplicant, but as the representative of a power that had humbled the mighty collective. You saw exactly what you wanted to see, Chen replied, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. You saw our public struggles with fusion power and assumed we were primitive. You saw our failed Mars colonies and thought we were inept. You saw our scattered settlements and thought we were disorganized. She gestured, and her quantum communicator projected a new set of images. Vast underground cities on Mars, thriving colonies beneath Europa's ice, manufacturing facilities in Venus's atmosphere that produced technologies the collective had thought impossible. What you never saw, Chen continued, was how we used your surveillance of us to our advantage. Every failure we displayed was calculated. Every weakness we showed was tactical. You weren't observing our development. You were watching a performance designed to make you underestimate us. In the Europa Command Center, Elena and her team monitored the meeting through their void matrix sensors. The technology that had won the war now served to ensure the peace, keeping a constant watch on reality itself. The collective has a choice to make, Chen addressed the council. You can cling to your belief in your superiority, gather what remains of your fleet, and try again. If you do, we will be forced to demonstrate technologies that make the void matrix look primitive in comparison. She paused, letting that sink in. The council members shifted uneasily. Their best scientists were still trying to understand how the void matrix functioned. The idea that humanity had even more advanced capabilities was terrifying. Or, Chen continued, you can accept that your assumptions about humanity were wrong. You can acknowledge that different paths of development don't make one species superior to another. You can choose to meet us as equals. High Counselor Zexera's crystalline form pulsed with complex emotions. You humbled us, she admitted, destroyed our greatest fleet, and yet you come offering peace. Chen smiled, because that's something else you never understood about humanity. We don't seek dominion. We don't need to prove our superiority. What we want, what we've always wanted, is to explore, to learn, to grow. We're offering you the chance to do that together. She gestured again, and her quantum communicator displayed a new set of images, human scientific advances that went far beyond weapons and ships, medical technologies that could regenerate entire bodies, environmental systems that could terraform planets in decades instead of centuries, power sources that drew energy from the quantum fabric of reality itself. This is what humanity has achieved in secret while you watched our surface struggles. Imagine what we could accomplish together, as allies instead of enemies. The council chamber erupted in discussion, crystalline voices chiming in complex harmonies. Finally, Zexera raised a hand for silence. You offer partnership, she said, after we tried to conquer you. We offer a future, Chen corrected. One where species learn from each other instead of trying to dominate each other. The universe is vast, and there are things out there that neither of us fully understand. We can face them together, or we can waste our potential fighting each other. In the end, the choice was clear. The Meridian Collective, humbled but wiser, signed the first true peace treaty with humanity. The quantum echoes of their fleet were restored, though the ships would never fight again. Instead, they were converted into research vessels, their vast hulls repurposed to house laboratories, where human and collective scientists worked side by side. And in the depths of space, humanity's void matrix ships kept their vigilant watch, a reminder that peace came through strength, understanding through wisdom, and true power through the recognition that there was always more to learn. Admiral Chen stood at her familiar spot on the Lunar Command Station's observation deck, watching Earth rotate below. Commander Rodriguez joined her, datapad in hand. The collective scientists are still trying to understand how we develop the void matrix, he reported. Should we tell them? Chen smiled. In time. First, let them learn the most important lesson, that the universe is far more complex than any one species can comprehend. That true advancement comes not from domination, but from the humble recognition that there is always more to discover. She turned from the window, her expression thoughtful. And perhaps, when they're ready, we'll show them what else humanity has been working on. After all, her smile widened, the void matrix was just the beginning. In the vast expanse of space, humanity's ships continued their patrol, their void matrices humming with power that defied the conventional laws of physics. They were no longer just defenders of Earth, but guardians of a new era, one where humanity's greatest strength wasn't its advanced technology or strategic brilliance, but its ability to turn enemies into allies and conquest into cooperation. The stars stretched out before them, infinite in their possibility, and humanity, no longer hiding its true capabilities, was ready to explore them all.